That's print. Good lord.
Special about watching the picture. Like, what's it like?
There's nothing special about it.
What is it like for you after so many years to go back and rewatch Terms of Endearment?
It's
Because
just so
like,
strange. Just the last, 10, 15 minutes I saw. Tremendous respect for the actors. I mean, just how so deep into the credits they had to be who they were. I mean, I think that hits me, and yeah.
because when you were making a film, you were so immersed in it all through post-production and then the promotion of it and everything, and then through the awards of that year. But when the time goes by, especially this much time, you go back and rewatch something, are you able to watch it objectively and just be like, hey, this is a really good movie?
I felt some of that. I felt some things I do, a little different just in those 10, 15 minutes. A lot of thoughts, I just think deep into the credits you needed every one of them. I mean, Huckleberry, who just the boy who played Teddy. The extent of my direction for him at the scene with his mother at the end was, how'd you do that?
Well, one of the things about Terms of Endearment, and this is a very big thing, is that after your career in TV with Cheers and with Mary
I can do
Tyler Moore,
Cheers.
tax.
I didn't help Cheers. I knew the guys.
Why was this book so important for you to make your directorial debut?
Well, first of all, I never had any ambition to be a director at the time. I mean, I was in television, very happy in television. Alan Pakula was offered this book to do, and I had done a script, my first script for him, and starting over, and he recommended me, and then when I read the book, and again, I had no specific ambition to direct, but I had, at that point, I had cried once in my life, and I cried reading the book, and I thought that was such a biological phenomenon for me at that time that I couldn't go against it.
That's a sign.
Yeah,
sure, that's definitely a sign. But also, with between the screenplay and also producing, why was it so important for you to produce? You're going to be learning. It's a lot of responsibility to also direct a film. Why was it important for you to also produce?
Because I'm a television guy, and the showrunner, producer, is what you're used to, and I just wanted to do that.
Well, back in May, when I saw Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret for the first time, I thought to myself, wow, they don't make movies like this anymore. And then, just recently when I rewatched Terms of Endearment for the Blu-ray, because it just got released on Blu-ray 4K transfer, I really felt like there is a connection between these two films. I can't put my finger on it, but there is a sensibility there, a vibe, if you will. I definitely saw kind of a connection between Shirley MacLaine and Kathy Bates, Sylvia from Margaret. Am I way off base?
My feeling of the Margaret movie is that Kelly Fremont Craig is just a wonderful writer-director, and that's what's significant about that movie.
Well,
in terms of trying to bring humanity to the screen, yeah.
Because I just felt like this was a perfect double feature. For those of you who have not seen Are You There, God? It's Margaret yet, I really hope you stay and watch, because it's a wonderful film. It's one of the very, very best movies of the year, with a star-making performance from Abby Force. Rachel McAdams is magnificent, and
Kathy Bates, yeah.
Kathy Bates, and then exactly. There's between producing terms of Endearment 40 years ago, what were the producing challenges you did face then, going from TV to film?
First of all, the visceral one was I forget how many years it took to raise the money, but it was years, and finally, like Graham Tinker, who's a great man, who was the head of the television production company that I worked for. Tyler Moore, married to Tyler Moore. He was chairman of NBC at the time. He pre-bought it for television for $1 million, and that gave and that's what allowed them to go forward. And you needed exactly that amount of money, not for anybody's salary, but to just film in location, which I just think it would be sinful not to have done this on location.
Well, with regards to producing terms and producing Margaret, over a course of 40 years, like how did producing challenges change from 1983 to 2023?
First of all, I think there was a time when if you walked into a studio and said, I have a crazy idea, they lean forward instead of backwards. I think that was true then. I don't know. I always think that if you despair that things are a little different now, people have data now, people can predict how much money something will make more often than not, which creates a certain dynamic. But I think the heartbeat's true. I think as we speak now, somebody's working on something somewhere, and that's going to be a terrific movie. I just think the system can never prevent people from trying to do terrific work.
The chemistry in both of these films, and Margaret, as you'll see if you haven't seen, it's palpable, and especially obviously in terms of Endearment, what a cast. In terms of Deborah Winger and Shirley MacLaine, Jack Nicholson, Jeff Daniels, like when you're filming, what were the things that surprised you about the dynamic between the cast members that completely leapt off the page?
Well, what I had going for me then, which you only get once, was innocence. I was totally naive. I had never done it, and that really, and that kind of stupidity is really wonderful to possess as you go forward. I was just not that much performances now, and I think that it happens so often. The most humbling thing about making a movie, and the thing you can't say to yourself, is that one cast member off and it's over. As sometimes you rarely get your first choice. So, here we got our first choice. I wouldn't have had, without Deborah, I wouldn't have had Jack, because I don't think I could have gotten him to read the script. At that time, and without Jack, it's not it. Without Deborah, it's not it. And that's a tough thing to face, because it's the last thing you do after they give you the money and everything, and it's too humbling to sit and consider.
Ignorance is bliss, as they say. And your first film as a director, and also the collaboration and sort of the dynamic with especially Deborah and Shirley. How did their offspring dynamic do you think that added to the relationship that we see on the screen?
I don't know that it added. I think it's a miracle that it didn't impair.
Were you just like, oh my God, this is my first movie, give me a break,
it's tough. It was a miracle that it didn't impair. I mean, I think that's true, and I think that means that each of those women was tremendously dedicated to the work.
When you were, in the process, you're doing principal photography, and you're shooting, certain scenes. I mean, this is actually the question is what were the scenes that were going into it? You're like, this is a scene I, really want to get right, but then it turned out to be like there was another scene that surprised you with the way it turned out.
you know, I think I don't think you call them surprises. I always think the example is, that if you're directing a movie and there are two people in the scene and everybody's driving to work that day, everybody has a scene in mind that they're gonna go shoot. And the great days are when everybody's wrong. I think that's something I really believe.
Okay, so obviously, Jack Nicholson, you directed 4 movies with him. 2 of them were Oscar-winning performances. What was the part of making terms of endearment where you started to feel that comfort level with him that maybe turned into like a shorthand for later films?
He was great. He was great to me. First time I directed. And he was a spirit for the picture. And it was Shirley's dream to work with this guy. So you saw them sitting together for the first time with it, where she was getting her absolute dream, and there she was with him. And he was fun and creative, and his ideas. He's the greatest actor I've ever come across.
Yeah, well,
and
us too.
And he used to come up to me and say, "You want to know the worst direction you gave today?" And he'd do it on the other side too. He said, "You want to know what good one you did today?"
Well, as a first-time feature director, that must have been great fun.
Blood curdling, yes.
Like when you were working on your first cut and everything, you finally got to screen it for an audience. I don't know if you test screened it or if it was just at the premiere.
About 5 or 6 times, yeah.
Okay, the first test screen that you had for Terms of Endearment, what was that like? What were the takeaways from that?
I think the first one was good. We were long, and so that was clear that we had to address that, and then you get these scores and stuff like that, and so much depends on it, the support of the studio and all that stuff, and then we had a screening where they didn't laugh, and I was dying, and the head of the studio was there, and he came over to me as they were filling out the cards and said, "Let's have a meeting in the office," and I'm just, not knowing what I'll be told at that meeting, and just suddenly, what are you gonna do? And then the scores were as high as they've ever been, and he just said, "Okay, I'll see you," and it was, but that was that night. That night they didn't laugh. They saw the movie on their terms, whatever it was.
Again, with time, with the passage of time comes the objectivity and the hindsight. And looking back, James, I'm just curious, like when you look back on this film in particular, Terms of Endearment, are there any fond memories you have in particular during its production, during its principal photography?
We were having a tough shoot. I mean, in many respects, and there was stuff happening, and then and the work itself was very hard. We were on a tight schedule, and then we hit the day that we did the beach scene, where he's in the Corvette, and it was like, you wish you could plan it for every movie you do, because the weather was perfect, everybody was on the sand, and they were, and it was like a break, and the scene went so well, and there was an event where, the camera, I was on a platform, and the camera car almost hit the platform, which would have killed us, so we had that to talk about for a while.
How'd you get the car out of the water?
It was, there was stuff right, yeah.
Oh, okay. So when we get to the point where the movie becomes a big box office success, and then, he goes on to the Oscars, and obviously a very, very big night, like what did it mean to you after, your first film, it was a tough shoot, for it to be a critical success, obviously a commercial success, and to be, recognized by peers in the industry and the Academy like that?
The most significant thing is that you
saw Margaret back in May, and it was a press, and I mean, look, everybody, all ages, knows about this book from Judy Blume, has maybe read it. You know, I read it when I was growing up in, back in the day. Everyone read it. You know, not just the girls, the boys too. And everyone knows Judy Blume. I mean, the documentary that was at Sundance, which was fantastic. But this is the book that everybody knows, and it's her legacy. You know, if you was going to fit one book, it would be Are You There, God? So when it came to, again, all these unique producing challenges you've had over these years making films, how did you earn Judy Blume's trust?
Kelly Freeman Craig did it. Kelly Freeman Craig did the simplest thing in the world. She wrote Bloom a letter saying, "I'd love to adapt your book for my second movie." And thank God Judy had seen her first movie and liked it at just 17. And she didn't say yes or anything. She was open. And that moment that the door was open a crack, we quickly went, so quickly went to Key West, Florida, and then she agreed when we got there.
What about, again, casting of the film? Abby Ryder Forston, I know she did Ant-Man and Marvel movies and everything, but this is she's in almost every scene in the movie. How did you find her? Did she do an audition? What made her?
She did, and by the way, I wish I knew the exact number, but it's hundreds we're seeing for that role.
Wow.
I wish I knew the exact number, and there was nobody in second place. When she came in, we were at it forever, and then she came in.
And Kelly also, Ed the 17 is fantastic. It's an excellent movie. And this is actually a perfect second movie for Kelly because it's building on that one. But what made her the perfect director for this?
I think she's perfect for anything she chooses to do because she's distinctive. She has an atmosphere on the set that's as positive and simple and joyful as anyone I've ever been around. And in terms of the way she directed the kids in this, and I think the two lead girls, I think 11 or 12 when we did it. I think people are going to be watching them when they're 60. I just think they're brilliantly talented actresses, and I think the atmosphere of the set and her clarity and her preparation and her talent, the usual things. But I think the thing that's different is just the spirit of the set, which I've never been around anything like it.
What was it about the spirit?
Easy, positive, gentle.
Compared to Carol's. That must have been like a night and day.
But purposeful and prepared and people and getting great performances and she's a real deal.
Look, Margaret, I just feel like it's, back in May, I obviously got some investments a year, and here we are, we're approaching the end of November, James, and I still think it's one of the very best movies of this year. So please, if you haven't seen it, please stay. It's Saturday, what else you gotta do? Come on, you're at the American Cinematheque, the Aero. But also, I'm just curious how, what do you look for now in a film that whether you're producing or hopefully directing compared to what you were looking for 40 years ago?
Well, I'm gonna direct a picture early next year, and and it took me a sinful amount of time to write it, and I'm gonna start, I think, lying about how long it took me. That sounds good, like two years and change. Or something.
Do we have a title?
Ella McKay.
Okay, great. You get Jack Nicholson for a fifth time. What about Rachel McAdams in Margaret? I've always been a big fan, but I just felt like this was a big
just creates an atmosphere that's like nothing I've been around.
It's okay if we take a couple of audience
Of
questions?
course.
Okay, passing of time in terms.
I just think it's for the amount of children you see for those kind of parts, and I don't know that. Do you know? I don't know that either of them had been in anything before. I'm not sure, and maybe not. You know, or certainly, yeah. My memory is not, or very minimally, and it's the kind of thing where, especially with children, because you conduct yourself and the days are very long and you're seeing a great many, and finally you just put in the work until the work stops. Oh, that's it. You know, I think that's it. And very different kids, and always the parents are very important when it comes to a kid in a movie. It can be the kind of bad stories you heard, or it can be a good story, and yeah.
Right here, nice and
Deborah before production was like the world's greatest associate producer, the one that's going to just own the world, because she got me Jack. She was a driving force, and she's super smart. Yeah. And Houston, by the way, was when I spent time in River Oaks, and the River Oaks section of Houston, which people at consulates there get extra pay like you do working in a dangerous zone because of the weather and stuff like that. It's a little weird. And River Oaks is about 5 degrees cooler than Houston because it has those oak trees. And I just did a lot of research there. I was there for a long time doing research, and seeing women who were living on their own in River Oaks, and who were widowed or divorced and whose children were grown, and visiting with them, there's no specific that you turn to, but when you sit there and it's 5 o'clock and you start to feel the loneliness of the night ahead, just sitting there. I can't say a specific thing that I did with it, but I know that it helped me enormously, just experiencing that.
I just want to say, you did not make a mistake going with Deborah.
Redemption, vindication. Yeah, next question right there.
I think when you're shooting, I think it's tough to do if you're doing two takes and moving on. I think if you get lucky enough to have the time to really explore the scene, everyone's hopefully get surprised by the end of the day, and then allow it to be the team sport it's supposed to be.
Thank you. One final question. Who's got a good question?
That's the vital thing in post-production. And the word is the biggest word you can have. I think tone is everything. Tone is elusive, and that's what gets decided in that 6 months in the editing room.
Last questions, because again, I do feel like there's that in some ways Terms of Endearment and Margaret are cousins, cousins. What are you most proud of when it comes to Terms? What are you most proud of when it comes to Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret?
I think, my honest answer is that with Terms, it was just all of us getting through it, and all of us getting through it when there was division at times, and all of us, no matter where we were coming from, still serving the people. I always think we all work for the movie, it's not like this is my movie or anything. I just think that's the deal, we all work for the movie. And I think with Margaret, Kelly effortlessly fosters that,
Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, please stick around.